Friday, Freedom family. If you couldn't tell, I'm at the church. As we're prepping for this lawn sale, I'm out here trying to avoid the last of the cicadas. But today, I want to talk to you about Lamentations chapter 3. And welcome back to Recharge. I want to talk about Lamentations chapter 3. And the text that I want to bring before you, I believe, begins in verse 20. I'm kind of doing this one by memory today because this is one of my favorite texts. I just can never remember the verse. So here we are. The writer of Lamentations chapter 3 says, "But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness." Today's recharge is one that I think will serve everybody. The writer of that passage says, "But this I call to mind." When he says, "But this I call to mind," he's interrupting his own thoughts. He's interrupting his normal patterns of thinking. He's interrupting his life with a statement. "But this I call to mind." He's saying, instead of thinking about this thing that I want to think about, instead of thinking about this thing that's actually normally on my mind, I'm going to take a moment to be intentional and call something else to mind. But what does he call to mind? He says, "But this I call to mind, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases." I wonder how often we think about God's love as steadfast. You know, we can tend to think of God's love as one that we have to meet approval of to get it. We can tend to think of God's love like we do other people's, in that it's fleeting. But the writer says the steadfast love of the Lord. This word steadfast, we all know, means something that's immovable. Like you and I can't pick up a big concrete slab on our own. We would say that a concrete slab is steadfast, it's immovable. He calls God's love that. It's steadfast. Love of the Lord never ceases. Then he says his mercies never come to an end. That means that God is always withholding what we should be getting as punishment for our sin, and God is always giving his grace. He's always being merciful. So he's steadfast in his love. He's always being merciful. So he says his mercies never come to an end. They're new every morning, which is good news for us today because we all need new mercies, right? So he says his steadfast love never ceases. His mercies never come to an end, right? They're new every morning. And then he says, "Great is thy faithfulness." Now we like to sing "Great is thy faithfulness," but that's actually something that we can latch on to, something that we can actually hold on to. The reality is, for all of us, we need this text. As much as we don't like to see ourselves as sinners, we are. As much as we don't like to talk about places where we still struggle because we get afraid of people condemning us or people judging us for where sin still exists in our life, we have a Savior and we have a Father in heaven who is steadfast in his love toward us, who lavishes us with his mercies every morning, who is faithful toward us no matter what. And so if you hear nothing else today, if you hear nothing else, I want you to know that you are in a relationship with a God who loves you and his love is immovable. You're in a relationship with a God who has new mercies for you every single morning. You're in a relationship with a God whose faithfulness is great because it's always present. So I hope that the news of who this God is that you're in a relationship with will encourage you to fight on. That it would encourage you to keep going a little bit longer. That would encourage you to have the strength that you need to keep walking and keep enduring, because this is our recharge. The recharge that we need is to know that the God of heaven and earth loves us, is merciful toward us, is being faithful to us. That's good news for us. I love you, Freedom. Go forward this weekend knowing that more than Pastor Jay loving you, more than any other pastor here at this church loving you, God's love for you is steadfast and it does something. I love y'all. Have a good weekend. See y'all soon.